Emmett Till's accuser, Carolyn Bryant, she's passed away. This woman who created so much trauma and controversy, really for America, but beginning with the Till family. Carolyn Bryant Donham, 88 years old, the white woman whose accusation resulted in the 1955 lynching of the Black teenager Emmett Till in Mississippi, has died. According to a fact of life letter from the coroner's office, Donham's role in the brutal murder of Till was reconsidered by a grand jury as recently as last year. Malik Shabazz, with Black Lawyers for Justice, said in a statement that Donham's legacy, quote, will be one of dishonesty and injustice. The statement goes on. Carolyn Bryant's death brings a conclusion to a painful chapter for the Emmett Till family and for Black people in America. The tragic part about Bryant's death was that she was never held accountable for her role in the death of young Emmett Till, who is the martyr for the civil rights movement. That from Black Lawyers for Justice, Malik Shabazz. August 1955, 14-year-old Emmett was beaten and shot to death after he allegedly whistled at Bryant, now Donham. In Money, later, her husband, Roy Bryant, J.W. Malam, took Emmett from his bed and ordered him into the back of a pickup truck and beat him before shooting him in the head and tossing his body into the river. They were both acquitted of murder by an all-white jury following a trial in which Carolyn Bryant testified that Emmett grabbed and verbally threatened her. Malam, who died in 1980, and Bryant, who died in 1994, admitted to the killing in a 1956 interview with Look magazine. That from CNN, the reporting. In 2007, a Mississippi grand jury declined to indict Donham on any charges. She testified in 1955 that Emmett grabbed her hand and waist and propositioned her, saying he had been, quote, with white women before. But years later, when Professor Timothy Tyson raised that trial testimony in 2008 interview with Donham, he claimed she told him, quote, that part's not true. The interview was included in Tyson's book, The Blood of Emmett Till. So, Bennie, the end of this painful chapter, the attorney said. What's so difficult here, I can't imagine being in the family's shoes all these years later. We've seen the footage, we've seen and heard the disgustingness of the time, but that she was never held to account. It just seems like the wound will never close because of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, there's so many layers to this, right? Because we need to understand this person is somebody who was recently very much alive and only recently died. And that should really sit in our minds about how recent all of this history is, that it's not really history so much as it is living memory for so many people. And then you have the people who are the children and grandchildren of those folks, right? Where fundamentally you have people who were raised by the people that would participate in like lynch mobs, right? You have people who are raised by the people that would like organize sundown towns, right? That very much shapes our culture. That shapes our reality today. It fundamentally is shaping policy today. And when you look at the folks that are actually elected into office, you realize that the people elected in office are disproportionately older, which means they're very much closer to that history. And so it's not really terribly surprising that a lot of these people haven't been held to account because fundamentally, them and their children are very much in power still in the United States, unfortunately. And so the problem of all white juries is something that still very much exists to this very day. Just take a look at states like Mississippi and Tennessee, and you'll see that like something around 10% of their voting age population is denied the right to vote due to prior felony voting laws. And if you break down why, like who is being disenfranchised by those laws, you see the very clear racial bias that exists within our criminal justice system. And so, like, unfortunately, this is just an ever-present reality that many try to pretend is just ancient history, something that just belongs in textbooks. But the reason why Republicans don't want people to learn about stuff like this in schools is because either their parents participated in it, their grandparents participated in it, or
Wow.
maybe they themselves are old enough to have participated in it. Because like fundamentally, this history is not as ancient as we would like to think.
I think you're exactly right. And I think let's just stay with that for a moment, because I find myself considering first the all white jury from the 50s, right? That did the racist thing, the painful, callous thing. But then I find myself looking, as you discussed, recent history, recent grand juries who wouldn't hold this person accountable. And to me, it moved beyond that. There seems to be this outpouring, this insulation placed around her was in her community to protect her and not recognize the pain of the Till family and the rest of us. What do you think about that? It's just this protection to the end. And yes, she became and grew and was permitted and afforded the opportunity to grow into a senior citizen. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
Not everybody was.
So, there's like a couple layers to this. There's like the personal layers to this that exist, and then the societal layers, and both of them kind of like blend with each other to a certain degree. Look, I think there's a real argument to be made that a lot of Gen Xers really love holding on to their bigotry because they see inheritances from baby boomers, and they don't want to do anything about those inheritances, right? They don't want to risk those inheritances by calling out their baby boomer parents, right? When you have a bunch of people that are in similar situations like that, especially because it's going to be disproportionately wealthy people who are worried about inheritances, well, then all of a sudden you have this sort of popular culture of like, oh, well, they're a product of their time, or, oh, well, we shouldn't really, we should look and see who they are. Are they really like this in their heart? I mean, I saw somebody the other day like put out a tweet that was asking like, oh, is Tucker Carlson really a white supremacist deep in his heart, or is he just doing it for the money? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you keep just bending over backwards doing these mental gymnastics to try and figure out what are these people actually thinking, but their actions speak for themselves. And it's just, I think this fear of offending people who are both in positions of power and potentially are in control of like an inheritance, right? And like when you go down to like Gen Z folks and millennials, a lot of Gen Z and millennials have sort of accepted the reality that inheritance is not really on the board, right? It's not on the table because we sort of know how the economy is going and are more willing to call people out on stuff like this, even with family members, which is why you'll see all of these articles talking about like, oh, kids these days are so disrespectful. And, our family is torn apart because, they keep telling grandpa that he's transphobic or something like that. And so, like, I mean, fundamentally, there's a lot of like personal layers to this and like socio-cultural layers that sort of tie into each other about why there's so much hesitance to actually speak out against the sort of worst offenders, on top of just the baseline white supremacist thinking that is like embedded into people's brain by growing up in the culture that dominates the United States.
It's so tricky and it's just a mess. I will say this. I won't get any money. Okay. I was a torturous, big mouth child. My parents of a certain generation, I challenged them on everything, anything they said. And so, yeah, I won't get any money, but I exercised free speech in the home and I was permitted, I guess, to get away with that. We'll see.